everyone, and welcome to another Elixir Kitchen cooking and nutrition class. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have an amazing class in store for you with some delicious recipes, as always, but an even more special class today because we are joined by the Executive Director of Kidney Cancer Canada, Christine Collins, and it's World Kidney Cancer Day. Welcome, Christine.
It is. Thank you, Jeremy and Stephanie and Natasha. Thank you so much. It is World Kidney Cancer Day. We are very excited. Usually we have been celebrating by one day, but this year we did a whole month of activities, and this, I have to say, is one of my favorites because I love cooking with you, Chef Jeremy, and all your good information, Stephanie. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to future ones as well. I think our theme we decided on was going to be, summer cooking, good, healthy summer cooking. And Jeremy, you did not disappoint. It looks like we're going to be doing some grilling today. So that's great. I just wanted to touch for a second on International Kidney Cancer Day. And it's not that long in the making. The International Kidney Cancer Coalition, known as the IKCC, and its affiliate organizations around the world joined together to mark the first ever World Kidney Cancer Day in June of 2017. And kidney cancer is often a forgotten disease. It is a global disease. We're all affected by it, and we all should work together to find better treatments, better services, and hopefully one day a cure. And we'd like to know how to prevent it. We don't have a way of predicting it, and that's a goal. And why it's on the rise, it seems to be increasing every year. And it used to be known as an old person's disease. It's no longer that. More younger and younger patients are coming forward all the time, and we need to find better ways to look after these patients and help them thrive. Anyway, part of the awareness program is each year the IKCC creates a theme. Last year it was on exercise, and we had a wonderful program by Dr. Linda Trin, who is with the Princess Margaret Cancer Centre and the University of Toronto. This year it's on, we need to talk about how we're feeling, mental health, stress relief, just feeling better, because my personal belief is that we treat the whole patient, mind, body, spirit. Today we're going to be treating all three. We're going to have nutritious food. We're going to talk about some tips on how to relieve stress. And just by being here and having fun and creating great recipes and cooking good food, that relieves stress and anxiety and takes our minds away from what we're dealing with and just makes us feel better. So that's a great opportunity. I just wanted to point out that there is a survey on the IKCC. It's also on the Kidney Cancer Canada website about how we are feeling, and we need to talk about it. And I would encourage you to take that survey. It's only 9 questions, but it will help all kidney cancer patients around the world. The IKCC is going to compile the information and put it out to the affiliates so that we'll be better able to serve our patients. And I'm very proud to say that Dr. Andrew Matthew of the Princess Margaret Cancer Centre was the lead and helped develop the survey and is overseeing it. So we're very proud of that we're taking part. Just if I may indulge for just a moment, Kidney Cancer Canada, that's us. And Kidney Cancer Canada is a national community of patients, caregivers, and health professionals who work to provide people touched by kidney cancer with support, education, and advocacy for their care pathways and treatment options. Our mission is to improve the lives of those affected by kidney cancer across Canada by advocating for access to new treatments, better treatments, and providing support, information, and education. If you're like most patients when you're first diagnosed, you are numb, you're in shock, and you're desperate for information. I know a lot of us turn to Dr. Google, and that's not always the best solution. You may be in a battle with your disease, and our community knows how you feel. We have been there, we are survivors, and we are here to help. Our values are respect for individual patients, their caregivers, and family members, because whatever affects the patients also affects the caregivers and the family members. We have integrity, transparency, and accountability, collaboration and cooperation, for example, with these great people at ELLICSR Kitchen, and leadership and partnership. You can always reach us at the Kidney Cancer Canada website, www.kidneycancer.ca. Our phone number is 1-866-598-7166. You can reach us that way. And the phone number is on our website. And we offer peer-to-peer support, patient education. We have wonderful webinars, activities, and one, we're going to do something brand new next week. We're going to have art therapy with coffee. A Canadian artist is going to show us how to paint with coffee, and we're just going to relax and create something. No previous expertise needed, and we're just going to have fun. So I hope you'll join us for that too. Check out our website for all our activities for World Kidney Cancer Month. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for your patience. And I see Jeremy's out there cooking, so take it away.
Thank you so much and welcome. My name is Stephanie Gladman, and I'm the registered dietitian of the Cancer Rehab and Survivorship Program here at ELLICSR Kitchen. So in our class today, we'll be focusing on some of the questions related for people experiencing kidney cancer. So now, many people might be wondering, like, what kind of food and nutrition is important to be eating while either going through treatment or after. And the truth is that it really all depends, and everybody is different. And I'll be repeating this throughout today's entire talk, okay? Because it is really important to receive individualized attention if necessary. So while someone is going, when someone is going through treatment, they might be experiencing different side effects, such as appetite loss, GI, so tummy issues, fatigue, and it's really important to address those symptoms, and it's so possible to do it through food and beverages. So in today's talk, we're going to discuss more around the healthy eating and what that looks like. And we're going to, since it's barbecue season, we'll talk a little bit about how to do that safely. So, many people have questions about, what do I eat specifically? How much protein, how much sodium is important to get? And so in these cases, again, it really all depends. So if someone's doctor mentions, yeah, it's okay, eat whatever you want. Well, having a balanced, healthy meal and diet is what you want to look for. And this can sometimes be a little bit confusing or stressful because you do want to protect, your kidneys and moving forward. So if someone is experiencing kidney failure or has chronic kidney disease or on dialysis, then the recommendations become a little bit more specific, okay? But if, again, your doctor has shared that you're good, that you could have whatever you want, then one of the first questions we get is around how much protein you want to have. Okay, so this recipe will focus on protein. And so what's important to remember is having a moderate amount of protein. Okay, so so that looks like, sorry, there's so much feedback. Everybody can hear me? All right. Sorry, I'm distracted. Okay, so in terms of protein, we're going to talk about that. So for those who, like a little bit of math and want to know how much protein is important to have throughout the day, you want to take your weight in pounds, divide it to get kilograms. So you do 2.2. Okay, so whatever that amount is, you multiply that by 0.8 grams of protein throughout the day. Okay, and just to give you an example, a chicken breast the size of your palm, okay, or like a deck of cards, would have about 25 grams of protein. Okay, so if you're somebody who needs 60 grams of protein throughout the day, then that's something that you divide. Again, a registered dietitian can walk you through that if you have any specific questions. But what I want to focus on now is, summer grilling. Okay, so what if you want to grill your steak or your beef or chicken or fish? And so there are ways to safely do that so that you're not necessarily creating those carcinogens. Okay, so when your flame is really high, that fat in the protein might become carcinogenic. Okay, so Jeremy is going to go through some simple, easy steps in order to help out and grill safely.
Sorry about that. The joys of technology. Okay, we're going to jump right into it. So we are going to be making some really nice mixed beef and veg kebabs. So nothing super, fancy or complicated, but I think the point here is we're going to maximize flavor. Okay, so we're going to focus on ways in which we can really get as much flavor out of these ingredients as possible. And then, like Steph mentioned, we're mixing a lot of veg into this dish. So yes, we're going to be using some ground beef here, but it's in a smaller amount, smaller portion, and we're going to maximize how many different colors we can add to it through these vegetables, or these plant-based ingredients. And you can see here, this is obviously, make it easy for yourself. So whatever you have, whatever you enjoy, I just wanted to try to make it as colorful as possible. So we're going to be using some zucchini, some mushrooms, some red peppers, onions. We have all kinds of things here that are perfect for the grill. And so we're going to be utilizing these veg. And then we're using some beef as well. And this is just some extra lean ground beef. We're trying to go for as lean a cut as possible so that, like Steph mentioned, we don't get a lot of fat dripping off, and that could potentially cause flare-ups on the barbecue. And I'm going to show you a couple tips on how to reduce the risk of that as well in a second. But for the first thing, we're going to start to dress and season these. So we're going to start with the veg first. I'm going to bring it down to my cutting board here. We have some nice mixed veg, and I'm going to keep this pretty simple. I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice over top. And the citrus in here, or the acidity from this lemon, is really going to help to enhance the flavors of what we add it to. Now, if you can't tolerate the acidity from citrus very well, then use the zest. The zest from the outside of the lemons is going to have a ton of lemon flavor as well. I'm going to simply use just some dried herbs. You can use some dried oregano if you want. This is actually a little mix. This is a za'atar mix, so it has some like dried oregano, a little bit of dried rosemary, some sesame, some marjoram. Beautiful. And then just a little bit of oil. Now the oil that I'm going to use for this, because I'm putting it on the grill, I do want an oil that has a high smoke point. Okay, so this means that the oil can tolerate higher temperatures and won't burn as quickly. So something like grapeseed oil would work really well. Sunflower oil, canola oil, avocado oil as well has a high smoke point. Something like, like your more expensive olive oils or like sesame oils, those tend to have a bit of a lower smoke point. So those are ones that you want to try to avoid using if you're going to be cooking over higher heats. Okay, so we have our veg, and we're just going to mix it together. Now you can definitely add a pinch of salt too to this. Absolutely. In these recipes, we're going to show you a few techniques on how we can sort of minimize the amount of salt that we do use. And so there's our veg. Now we're going to go with our beef. And with the beef, we can keep it fairly simple. But what I want to do is, again, because it's ground beef, this is an opportunity for us to maximize the amount of flavor that we put in it. Now, yes, we're using beef because we want to show you how to safely grill beef and how you can still incorporate something like this, but in smaller portions. But you can absolutely do this with, chicken, turkey, pork, whatever you want, or you can just keep it strictly vegetarian, and you can definitely use some like tofu cubes, and mix it up that way. So completely up to you. But for this, what we're going to do is to the ground beef, we're going to add some parsley. So this is just some chopped parsley, any chopped herbs. Again, a great opportunity to bring a lot of flavor, a lot of freshness to this. Garlic. I don't know how much you like garlic. Christine, do you like garlic? I know Steph likes garlic.
I love garlic. And I did have another question, Jeremy, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
I noticed that you used spices, and you were mentioning the lemon or the lemon zest. Sometimes in the grocery store, I notice something like lemon pepper. I wanted to ask both you, because is that going to add the same flavor? And Stephanie, would that offer too much salt? Like if you use that kind of a seasoning instead?
Yeah. So you always just want to look at the packaging. And yes, you're right. If it's like a dried, I'm not really sure what you mean. If it's like a dried pepper seasoning. Yes. Okay, so if that's the case, yes, sometimes they do incorporate some salt. And again, I want to highlight, we'll talk more about this in some of the other recipes in terms of sodium. Yes, you want to have a low sodium diet, but that doesn't mean no sodium at all. Okay, having a high sodium diet puts more strain on your kidneys, and you obviously don't want them to work harder than they have to. Okay, it's also important for heart health to have a low sodium diet. So yeah, when you're looking at when you're buying and purchasing things, if there is a pre-made spice mix, sometimes they will add some sodium. I suggest make your own or find one without added sodium in it. And so, yeah, so adding flavor is definitely what you want to, we eat because food tastes good, right? And you certainly could flavor food without adding salt. And so what Jeremy's doing, adding fresh herbs or spices, is an awesome way to do that.
Yeah, and speaking of which, we're going to be using a really nice, this is one of my favorite spices. This is actually a spice blend. This is one that does not have any added salt in it. This is called garam masala. So if you've never used garam masala before, it's used in a lot of Indian cooking. It has a combination of different spices like cinnamon and cumin, coriander, sometimes little ginger, and it is just super aromatic, super flavorful, but there is no salt added. And the other thing too is it brings a lot of flavor, a lot of warmth to the dish without actually adding any spice in terms of heat. So I know, Christine, you mentioned that could be a concern sometimes too, right? If we're adding chilies and spice, this doesn't have any of that spice or that heat. So this is a great one to try to use, experiment with. We use this in soups all the time. It just has this like super aromatic flavor profile, but it works super well in something like this too. So we're going to go ahead and add a really nice big teaspoon there.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeremy, because that is one thing that kidney cancer patients are concerned about, is too much spice, especially if they're on treatment. I know a lot of our kidney cancer community, have had surgery or is on active surveillance, and they don't have to worry the same way as, about the spice or the acidity. But for those of our patients on treatment, that's a great point. Thank you.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think that's the key is, how do we still navigate that flavor world where it works for us, it works for you. And if you're dealing with any of those, taste challenges or mouth sores or how can we navigate that with flavor? There are options. It's just you're gonna have to find what works best for you. But this is, if you've never tried it before, I would say give garam masala a shot. And it's available in most grocery stores now. I know it was a little harder to find before, but you can find it pretty much anywhere in stores. And so what I'm doing now is I added just a little bit of that grapeseed oil here, just like about a teaspoon, just so it mixes together well. And I'm just combining it. You got to get in there. You got to get a little, you got to roll up your sleeves a little bit for this one. And I want to make sure that the flavors are well incorporated. And what this is doing is it's going to give me a nice firmer texture so that it will hold together well. Now, what you can do to help with the binding, if you want, is you can add an egg as well. That will help with the binding. I know it's very common in a lot of meatballs as well. You can definitely do that. This is holding together pretty well, so I'm actually not going to add the egg, but that is something that you can do. And in terms of the egg, Christine, did you have, I know you mentioned you had a question, if you wanted to replace the egg, if you wanted to substitute the egg, is there some things that we can try?
Yes, could you give us pointers on that? Because some people have more and more, I'm finding, egg allergies. And so they have to be careful about adding that element. So if you had a replacement, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, so it's a great question. In terms of the binding ability, so if we're using an egg to help bind the ingredients together, then what you can do is use what's called a flax egg. And we've used that before. I don't know if you've ever heard of a flax egg.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard. Okay, perfect. So we're using ground flaxseed and water. And it's a 3-to-1 ratio. So you use about a tablespoon of ground flax to 3 tablespoons of water. You mix it together and let it sit. And after about 5 minutes, it starts to resemble the consistency of an egg, or more particularly the egg white. And it will actually act as a glue. It'll help to bind your ingredients together. So if you did have an egg allergy, that is something that you can definitely use as a substitute in something like this, in something like if you're making like meatballs or even some baked goods where it's just acting as a binder.
Thanks for that reminder. I'd forgotten that. And just so everybody knows, it does not look like an egg.
No.
It's kind of a brown paste, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our 2 ingredients ready to go. We have our veg seasoned up beautifully, and we have our protein. In this case, we're using our ground beef, and this seasoned with the garam masala, some garlic, a little bit of that parsley. It's super, super fragrant, which is excellent. And right now, all we have to do is skewer them up. So we can definitely ditch the skewers, roll them up into little patties or little meatballs, toss it with the veg. We can definitely approach it that way as well. But it's always fun to work the grill with these little, bamboo skewers every once in a while. And I just find that it's nice and neat. You can portion it a little bit easier, and it's easier to control on top of the grill so that you can, avoid some of the burning. And it's just a better way to control the heat. It's also a lot faster instead of flipping each individual piece, right? So for this, we got some skewers. And I'm going to show you what I do. And I did one in advance here. But for something like this, if I have bigger chunks of veg, and if I'm going to be using like a ground meat, that it's not like a solid piece of meat. So there might be a chance of it falling off the skewer. Then with these thinner ones, what I'll do is I'll double up. Okay, so I'll put 2 side by side. And I'll always start with something nice and firm to hold in everything else. So I got a nice big chunk of onion here. All right, and just watch your fingers so you don't poke yourself. And make sure that the width of the ingredients that you use is no bigger than your grill. Obviously, otherwise you're going to be hanging off and you're not going to be able to cook everything evenly. Okay, so I know about the size of my grill, so I'm going to go about that width. I'm going to start building, and we're going to add, again, you can rotate. We're going to use a little bit of pepper here. And then when we get to the meat part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab almost like a little golf ball size and just kind of do a one-hand little roll here. It's easier than it looks. just to kind of firm it, get it nice and firm and in shape. And then what I'm going to do is press the skewers just over top gently, and then use my hand to kind of wrap that around and squeeze it to the skewer. And now I don't want it any thicker than the width of the veg, because I want everything to cook nice and evenly, and I want to make sure everything touches the grill. And I don't want it any thinner. Like if I did it too flat, then it actually wouldn't touch the grill at all, right? So we just want it about the same width as the veg. And then you can see, there we go.
Awesome.
We have our veg and our little piece, and then we just keep rotating and adding to the skewer.
So as Jared does that, I want to jump in and provide a little bit more nutrition tips here. So, you know, like I said, if you are on the, you know, you got the go ahead and your doctor says you can have whatever you want, which is likely true, or what happens. So basically you want to have a well-balanced diet. Really what this is something that looks like, if you haven't already heard, a Mediterranean style way of eating, where it's really heavy on those plant-based foods. Okay, so fruit, vegetables, nuts and seeds, protein, beans, lentils. And this doesn't mean necessarily no animal-based products, right? So you can definitely incorporate chicken, fish, beef, turkey as well. You just want to make sure that it's not like the central main event, right? That it's more of like a side dish. So you think of it like that. Okay. And like Jeremy said earlier, we're showcasing animal-based proteins on the grill because we want to teach you how to grill them safely. And so really important to use a beef that is lean, okay, because what happens is the high heat, the flame on the grill, when it comes in contact with that fat, what happens is that creates a flame, and that fat might become carcinogenic. Okay, so Jeremy is going to show us how to use the grill, but again, just kind of making sure that you have the specific you know, balance. And again, like having those colorful vegetables and fruit, this is a great way to incorporate some of those antioxidants into your diet. All right, so antioxidants are basically compounds within food that help protect your healthy cells against carcinogens, cancer formation, and we know that cancer is an inflammatory disease. So really important to incorporate so much of those anti-inflammatory foods. So every vegetable, doesn't matter the color, you want to eat the rainbow. Each color is a clue to the different antioxidants that you're getting. So like Jeremy is showing, you know, you got your yellow, you got your purple, your green, your white. So this is such a great way to incorporate them all.
I thought of a question for you. We're doing so much talking about healthy eating, and something that we sometimes struggle at Kidney Cancer Canada is finding the way to. We have a lot of questions that come in. How do I eat? You know, what should I eat? What do you recommend? Some people talk about a dietitian. Like, how would they access that? Yeah, maybe you could help us with that.
For sure. So, in order to access a dietitian, the first thing you can do is contact your doctor, who can make a referral. If you're working within a clinic and they have a dietitian there, they'll be able to refer to a dietitian that can help you out. Now, you know, that will, you know, likely be covered. However, if you have a healthcare plan, you might have to pay, but that will cover the cost. And you can find a dietitian in your area by going to the Dietitians of Canada Association website. And Natasha could put in, who's our tech specialist, will put in the link and go to find a dietitian. And you can type in like a subject matter such as kidney, and then you're put in your postal code so that you could find someone someone who specializes in your area. I know that there was a question about payment. So, and whether it's true that dietitians are for free. It just depends on how you access that. So if there is a dietitian who's part of the hospital or your doctor, family health team, likely that is covered. Dietitians who are in the community with their own private practice, you might have to pay, but if you have insurance, that would be covered. So it's just about kind of talking to your healthcare team in order to help navigate. But certainly a dietitian is a professional who's able to provide personalized advice, right? So like I said, if your doctor has said, like, go ahead, have all the protein and whatever, or healthy eating that you want, that's great. And it just means that you want to eat a balanced diet.
All right, so I did a few of these super colorful skewers loaded up with some of that seasoned veg and a little bit of that ground beef as well. And these are ready for the grill. So I'm going to take you, meaning the audience, and my laptop outside, and hopefully this works, just to show you a few little tips on how to grill safely. So I'm going to keep you elevated and off my floor where there is a ton of toys that I have to navigate and try not to trip. Okay, there we go.
These are the joys of working at home, right?
Oh, the joys of working at home, and technology as well. So,
right. Thank you, Stephanie. That was most helpful. It will be on our website as well for patients to tune into. So thank you.
Yeah, I know that it's hard sometimes to navigate. And especially I find that people who've experienced kidney cancer, they might go into a Google hole and land on pages that are explaining like dialysis and, if someone has low functioning kidney. So, that is when, something is more specialized and, protein amount, fluid, potassium, phosphorus, these are things to really watch out for. But, someone who has a, after treatment, normal functioning kidney, or even living with one kidney, they can totally have a well-balanced diet that is high in, plant-based foods and eating, a moderate amount of protein. And, when people say low, I feel like we think, it's a kind of or high, right? It's just, I guess, phrases and jargon, right? And it's really about kind of understanding, well, what does that mean for you, right? And like I said earlier, I know that this is a calculation, so you might want to talk with your doctor or a dietitian about this. But really, in terms of the amount of protein that someone gets throughout the day, it's basically 0.8 grams of their total body weight in kilograms. So that's for the mathematicians in the crowd, an easy way to calculate that.
but in terms of the cooking process, like we mentioned earlier, like Steph mentioned, the key here is to try to avoid any flare-ups from the grill, any flare-ups from the barbecue. So a couple ways we can try to avoid that is the first way is to cook indirectly. And what I mean by that is you can see my skewers on one side of my grill. I don't have any heat, or my heat is very, very low on that side. And most of my heat is actually coming from the other side of the grill. And so when I close my lid here, what that's doing is it's going to be creating this nice circulatory heat where I know my ingredients are going to cook properly, but if the fat drips off or if any oil drips off of my ingredients, it's not going to kick any flare-ups because my heat source is actually on the other side of my grill. Okay, so cook on the low side or on the off side, and then have your heat on the side that there's no ingredients. Okay, that's the first tip. The second tip is get yourself one of these little spray bottles, and just for cooking. don't like maybe go into like your cleaning supplies and try to find one of those ones. Use one from scratch, brand new. And I have one just for cooking. And what I do is I'll put water in this, or you can put some like lemon water, herbs maybe, season it up. And if you see every once in a while if there's any flames that come up, or if your ingredients are getting a little too caramelized, a little too dark, what I do is I just give it a quick little spritz, a quick little spray. And what that does is it not only will knock down any flames, but it'll provide a little bit more of a barrier to the outside of your ingredients, a little bit of a moisture barrier, and it will slow down that caramelization or any potential burning, because that's what we want to avoid. And then if we add, like I mentioned, any lemon juice to this, is a little mixture as well. Steph, that's adding almost like another little protective barrier, right, with the antioxidants.
Yeah, absolutely. So we usually recommend with any type of animal-based protein, so this is something like fish, chicken, turkey, beef, pork, to marinate your meat or fish in citrus, okay? Because this citrus, so it could be orange, it could be lemon, not necessarily grapefruit, because sometimes that interacts with medications, and this gives it a protective barrier to the heat. So marinating it, safely for an hour or two, that again makes that kind of like a shield. I mean, obviously you can use like a pan or a grill, or sometimes people use those wood planes. The name escapes me at the moment. But in order to have that kind of protective layer between your meat and the flame.
I have a quick question. When you mentioned that about marinating in like an acid, and tying into treatment, acidity is very sensitive in the mouth with sores and such. When you take it out of the marinade and you cook it, Jeremy, does a lot of that go away, so you wouldn't necessarily have the acidity on the food, or does it remain and we need to figure something else out?
So it's a great question. And usually the acidic nature from something like vinegar or something from like lemon juice or lime juice, after you cook it off, you'll get a lot less of that acidity there, but it will still be there. So it all depends on how you can tolerate it well, but most of the time if you do cook it, especially on a grill, you won't get as much of that bite or that acidity. We took the skewers off of the grill. You want to make sure, obviously, we're using a raw meat product, so we want to make sure that's cooked all the way through. The best way to tell is using a food thermometer, and you want to probe it to make sure that it is fully cooked. And we plated it up a little fancy over here because it's, we're having fun, we're grilling, we're enjoying, and we have these beautiful skewers, which you can enjoy as is. You can add a little dressing. So this is just a little bit of yogurt and some herbs, which you can add on top. Maybe some more fresh parsley. If you did want a little lemon juice, or like lettuce, cucumber, onion, whatever you like, you can add to that at the end. Because these are nice and warm and they're cooked, adding something a little bit fresh at the end is a nice way to sort of make it, pop and brighten it up a little bit. And if you wanted, you can even throw it on a little bit of a pita like this. And what you would do is just hold the end and pull the skewer out, and you have this beautiful little pita here that we can dress up with a little bit of that yogurt, maybe a little bit of onion if you like, and some parsley, and we have this beautiful little beef and veggie kebab ready to go.